All right. So my name is Elijah Miller, and I am a GA within the Counseling Center. Today I'm going to be speaking a little bit about stress management, and I want this presentation to serve as a guide to mental wellness. This is so important because the majority of the clients that we see in the counseling center are due to stress issues um, and issues that stem just from the stressors of life. So I'm hoping that you could find something of substance from this presentation. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, the overview. What will I be covering? First and foremost, I want to talk about prevention tools. Stress isn't necessarily something that is preventable, so maybe the term to be used here would be alleviation tools, and ways to lighten the impact of stress that you are inevitably going to face as being a college student. Signs of stress. Stress looks different to different people, so it's important to understand what that might look like to you personally and identifying that. Assessing stress in your life. So, going a little bit further into depth into what stress is going to look like for you, as opposed to maybe what it might look like for someone else. Self sabotage and sabotaging yourself. This one always seems to be one of the more popular slides because being college students, it's not out of the norm to partake in some sort of self sabotaging behavior. So, whether it's procrastination or um, drinking, drug usage, things like that, it's worth talking about in the grander scheme of the conversation. Practical approaches to letting go of stress. And then, last but definitely not least, is planning for stress reduction. Let's jump right in with prevention tools. One of the most, one of the most popular ways that I like to convey prevention tools to students is through basic self care. And self care for people can mean a wide array of things. So, doing your skincare routine, maybe sneaking in a surprise nap during the day, or treating yourself to something that you typically wouldn't. That could be self care. Um, I know for myself, taking some time for myself to meditate is a source of self care. But the basics of self care also should not get lost in the conversation. So, starting off with sleep. Um, in this age range of college age students, uh, you should be getting about 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night, would be a healthy range and your best bet. I know that's really hard with many people balancing school and work and just responsibilities that accompany life. But 7 to 8 hours is definitely where we want to be shooting. Eating. This is the one that seems to be pretty tough for students, also dealing with just not having a lot of time and not really being available for breakfast, lunch, and a dinner, which is completely understandable if you can do it. But if not, things to keep in mind are snacking throughout the day. If you know that you are going to be sitting through a 3 hour lecture, maybe bring some snacks with you if your professor permits something like that. Or on your way to class or work, keep some snacks with you in your bag or in your car to make sure that you're sustaining yourself throughout the day. Um, because being stressed is one thing, and then that on top of not sleeping or eating is another thing, and can exacerbate the effects of stress and leading to you to be more stressed out. Staying active. So I'm not one that sits here from my high horse and says go to the gym every day, because I don't even do that. But staying active can honestly just mean going for a 20-minute wellness walk every day to clear your head and ground yourself a little bit. So keep that in mind when going through your day. Next would be build connections here on campus. So building connections could be with faculty members, staff, students um, through your organizations or your class. Texas State has almost 40,000 students and a plethora of different organizations to join. Um, Building connections is really just being intentional and putting yourself out there. And this can be harder for some than it is for others. Kind of extending yourself in new and uncomfortable ways. But just remember, in building connections, it's important to do this because you can establish some sort of support system when things do get a little bit rocky in your life. And stressors start to come from different directions. Having that support base and that support group is very advantageous for your mental health. University resources, Student Learning and Assistance Center, if you know that you need some help with an assignment, like your math class, because you're just not the best at math, which is okay. Slack is there to assist you for whatever it may be, whatever class you might have. There is someone that would be available to schedule an appointment with you to help you through that. The Student Health Center. The Student Health Center for physical health needs would be your go-to. And then you have student involvement, which is going to be the hub of ways that you can get involved on campus, whether, like I was saying before, whether that's like organizations or different events that are happening around campus. Student involvement would be a really great office on campus to go through. And then there's student success, which is hosted through retention management and planning, has mentoring opportunities available through the Bobcat Bond. So academic skills training and other services such as the welcome tents. And then they also offer services for male students, transfer students, foster care and alumni students, students who are parents, first year off of campus students. Student success has so many different opportunities for a whole wide array of communities on campus that most people don't know about. And these are fees that are already worked into your tuition to support these offices. So I would definitely recommend that you get your money's worth and check it out. Signs of stress. So stress is going to be this strange thing that manifests very differently in different people's lives. So for one person, stress could look like A, and for another person, stress could look like B. But it's important to understand how you specifically manifest stress. So signs of stress, there's physical, mental, and emotional. And I kind of want to go through each of these individually so you have a better look at what physical stress looks like, what mental stress looks like, and what emotional stress looks like. And the point of this is hopefully, maybe you'll hear something and say, well, I might do that sometimes when I'm in a high tense situation or going through a rocky period. So first and foremost is physical. With physical, you're going to experience things, including, but definitely not limited to, things like headaches, nausea, hair loss, acne, heartburn, things of that sort. Mental, poor concentration, memory loss, lack of creativity, constant worry, inability to remember things. And then there's emotional, irritability, fear, frustration, feeling overwhelmed, crying, being anxious, depressed, down. So I don't know if I know emotional is a really big sign of stress that we see. So I don't know if you've ever just experienced just going through your day and then something what you might consider to be minuscule happens and then you're crying. Or you hear a song and then you just start sobbing in your car, and nothing's necessarily led up to that point and just the tears just started flowing. That could maybe mean because you're stressed or if you are just unable to remember very basic things and you're just constantly distracted, that could be a sign of stress, a mental sign of stress. But a lot of people don't attribute things like memory loss and lack of creativity and poor concentration to stress or something that could possibly be caused by stressors of life. But it's important to realize that that is. And then there's assessing kind of what the next steps would be once you've pinpointed the fact that, okay, I am indeed stressed out, because it's really easy to put our own mental wellness on the back burner as something that's either not important or just like not realizing what's going on in the first place. Let's talk about stress. So, stress is something that everyone is going to experience at some point in time. I do believe I said this at the very beginning, but it is not avoidable. Being a college student, taking tests, having pressures that you have never felt before, and just life. Let's just say life. Completely understandable, but everyone experiences it to some degree. Any change, even positive change, can result in stress. So stress isn't always going to be a bad thing. Think about moving to college. This is a peak point in a person's life. This is something that people will wait years to do, and that doesn't make it any less stressful. Still exciting, but still stressful. So it is completely okay to feel overwhelmed and stressed out. It's normal. And that also means that it's just as normal to ask for help. If you are sick, you're going to go to the doctor to relieve your sore throat or body ache or whatever reason that you need to see a doctor in the first place. But when you feel stressed, you also need to make sure that you're going to your friends or your family or the counseling center, wink, wink, in order to manage that stress and anxiety, whether it be relationship problems or what have you. But just knowing that it's important to figure things out sooner rather than later, because what starts off as just stress could end up being something that's a little bit harder to treat. So it's best practice to get ahead of that as soon as possible. So, responsibilities, obligations, expectations, and perfectionism. So, with starting with responsibilities and obligations, what we recommend here is to delegate, remove, revise. What do you need to be doing? What's the most important task that you absolutely need to take care of? And then what are the tasks that can wait or be kind of pushed to the back? So when I say delegate, that's what I mean. Delegating what's the most important. If you have a party on the weekend coming up, but you know that next Monday you have a test, you're like, dang, I really want to go to that party, but I got to study for the test. I got to make the review and then study over it. So, in the sake of delegating, you would make sure that you wouldn't go to that party until you finish the studying or you finish making the review or just doing the things that you really need to be doing that are advantageous for stress management. And then remove. So, okay, dang, I didn't finish this review in time. It's kind of late. The party's going to end in about like an hour or two. This is the part where we remove the party because there will be another one. So go ahead and remove that out, and then you revise. And then you just go from, and you work from there and realize, all right, I'll go to the party next week, and I'm just going to go ahead and focus on this test that I have that's on Monday. Then there's expectations. Most important thing about expectations is realizing whose expectations are they. Are they expectations that you have for yourself, or the expectations that other people have placed on you? For one student, They might be expected by family members, whether it's their mom, dad, grandpappy, whoever it might be, their expectations for that student might be to get a 4.0 every semester and be involved in every organization on campus, which is impossible, by the way. And to that student, that might just be a little bit too much. With everything going on in that student's life, they work, they're in a full course load. So to them, success looks like getting B's and maybe a C every now and then, and realizing that that's good enough for me. At least right now where I stand, that's good enough for me. And instead of being involved in 30 organizations, which, like I said before, it's not possible, he's going to be involved in two. And that's exactly what success looks like for him or her, and that's where the bar lies. And it's okay to set the bar at a different level than bars that have been placed on you that are unrealistic, creating unrealistic expectations for you, which then leads us to perfectionism. Perfectionism feeds procrastination, damages your self-esteem, and is unrealistic. And it's important to give yourself some grace. So perfectionism goes back into setting a very, very high and unrealistic goal for yourself. Because the more you strive for perfectionism, the more stressed out you're going to be, the more disappointed you're going to be, because this is a bar that's been set to a level that's unattainable. And a lot of times that gets lost with students, that there's only so much that you can do, and being okay with that. All right, sabotaging yourself, self sabotage. So, what are ways that we see that young adults constantly self sabotage? What are tools that pour fuel into the fires of stress that are done by our own doing? That is self sabotage. So, most of these activities don't directly cause one to be stressed, but using them while stressed out can exacerbate the symptoms of stress. So, coffee. I'm a type of person who, if I have too much coffee, it makes me anxious just already. And so if I'm stressed out, I'm up late trying to finish a paper, read through some readings, what have you, and I have coffee, it's going to make me a little bit anxious. So I know for myself that in certain situations, high stakes situations, I can't have caffeine. But that's just me. I know people that can drink coffee, and honestly, it helps them study a little bit better. It helps them be more attentive. But for me, drinking coffee at ungodly hours of the night is self sabotaging and really stresses me out. Nicotine. The same thing can be said for people in nicotine usage. If you are, really feeling the stressors of life kind of kick up, and then you have to hit your Juul or your whatever other nicotine products there are, like cigarette or whatever. If you are using that as a coping mechanism to deal with stress, it's time to take a step back and maybe realize that I'm only doing this because I'm stressed out, not because I, want to do this recreationally as like a good time or what have you. Sugar, eating sweets, things like that. Over and under eating, this is a big one. These these are things that we don't really think about when it's going on around like finals time. Some people just don't eat. People will just go through their day without eating breakfast, lunch, or dinner, a snack, nothing, just because they're so focused and caught up on their finals or their tests. And it's definitely not just finals when this happens. Um, it just depends on kind of whatever season you're going through in your life that might cause stress. Some people overeat as a way to cope with the stress that they're going through, a way to make them feel better in a very kind of less than ideal state of mind and situation. Alcohol and drugs, same to be said with that. Um, Now, speaking more on the alcohol side, innately not a bad thing. You know, people drink, It's definitely about A, drinking responsibly, and B, not using alcohol as a way to kind of elevate you out of that state of stress or anxiety that you're going through, and just making sure, like I keep saying, that at the root of it, it's not being used as a way to cope. Because then you get into things like alcoholism, drug addiction, caffeine addiction, nicotine addiction. And these are very, very ephemeral fixes. These are not things that last. You're just going to make a habit to where you feel like you are stressed out and you're immediately going to default to things like alcohol, drugs, over under eating, sugar, nicotine, caffeine. So this is big in college. These are things that are very real issues and a lot of times aren't talked about in the conversation of stress and how it is very, very self-sabotaging. Practical approaches of letting go. Um, so priorities are crucial while trying to do both school and organizations and being a part of a family. And things get lost in translation sometimes and clarifying these priorities. That's why it is so important to definitely and vocally uh, clarify those priorities. Um, so my priority is going to be school, work, social life. That order: school, work, social life. And that's my priorities. I mean, some people's might not be in that order. That's fine. But as long as you're able to clarify it, I mean, I don't care if you have to write it down on a piece of paper. As long as you know, you make a physical or mental note as to what your priorities look like. Because how are you supposed to delegate, remove, revise if you have not clarified those priorities? It's not possible. Identifying and using resources. So these are things that we talked about before, with like Slack, the Student Health Center, um, student success. These are all resources that are able to be used at your disposal. So use them. If you are struggling with your mental health and stress, boom, there's a counseling center. And if keeping a stress-free life and a mentally well life is a part of your priorities, which it should be, then, you know, we are on the fifth floor of OBJ. Assertiveness. So with assertiveness, I like to really hone in on the power of saying no. You have friends that want to take you to the bars this weekend or to a party barge in Austin, but you got things to do. You told your boyfriend that you would watch his dog, and you've already made that a priority for yourself. So assertiveness is being like, dang, I really want to go out, or I really want to go to that party barge, but I told my bae that I would be watching his dog. So assertiveness is saying no and understand that you are able to say no. It is within your right to assert yourself in a way that protects your mental health. And then communication is communicating that to people. So the exact same thing that I'm telling you, echoing that to someone else. I cannot do this. I've clarified my priorities. Um, just because I can't do this right now does not mean that I don't love you, or it doesn't mean that we're not friends. It doesn't mean A, B, C, and D. It literally just means I have a lot going on right now, and I'm communicating to you that for my own sanity, my own mental wellness, that I cannot make myself available in that way for activity, for what have you. I just cannot do it. And the importance of communication um, is keeping healthy relationships with people. Because it's really easy to kind of fall off when we go through stressful times, not really telling people why are they acting like this? Why are they being shady? Why are they not wanting to hang out anymore? Well, it's not that I'm being shady, it's just that I'm stressed. And, you know, effectively communicating that more times than not will be received well, especially by our age group, who would know better than anyone what it feels like to be stressed the hell out. So just communicate that. Then there's responsibility and control. Letting go of what is not yours frees up a huge amount of physical and emotional energy. If it's not for you, let it go. Like in Frozen, let it go. And that's how you take responsibility and control over your mental wellness. All right, what's next? Planning for stress reduction. So this sounds really just like duh, but it's important to keep this in mind. Remember to breathe. Just remember to breathe. That sounds really simple, I know. I know. But this is how you center yourself and take a step back from everything that you are going through and just understanding that we are here right now. This is my situation. Not to fight the feelings of stress that you might be feeling, accepting that, and then what are we going to do with it? We're going to, well, first of all, we're going to understand our responsibilities, you know, different practical approaches to letting go of that stress. And that's what we do when we breathe. Breathe in, breathe it all out. And then what? We're going to choose one sabotaging behavior at a time and focus which one to change. So, as you know, when you're stressed out, you overeat and binge drink. Realistically, if you're going to want to stick to reversing these self sabotaging behaviors that were gone over before, you have to do it in a fashion to where it's going to work in the long term. And just going cold turkey and like, okay, well, I'm just going to start doing this, and this all at the same time. A lot of times you're going to default back to doing those things again. So, first off, what am I going to do? I'm going to make sure that when I'm stressed out, the first thing that I do is not to go hit the liquor bottle. I'm not going to do that. I already overate today. But at the very least, what I can do is make sure that when things are getting challenging, I'm not drinking and I'm not pushing myself over the edge with kind of these self-sabotaging behaviors. So focusing on one and then the other and then the other and then the other. And that's what success looks like in managing stress, is taking a little bit at a time and not taking too big of a bite off at once. And then identify healthy ways for you to relax and for you to take a break. Meditation is a big one. A lot of people think of meditation as sitting in a corner with your legs crossed in a dark room, just going, hum, but that is meditation, but that's not only what it is. Meditation can be like going on a walk through a park, listening to your music. It could be listening to your music in a dark room, or on your break from work, just going into the break room that's quiet where there's no one there and just kind of grounding yourself and, collecting all of your thoughts from the day. Meditation can be getting on an app that does a self-guided meditation, which we'll get into in a bit. And I'll recommend some apps that you can use for this. But it's just a way for you to have some alone time with yourself and just kind of, assess what's going on and give yourself a status report. Like, okay, well, right now, we're not doing so hot. And in that moment, let's clarify some priorities. Let's figure out our responsibilities. In our head, we're going to delegate, remove, revise. We're going to figure out kind of what would be most advantageous for our mental health. Just taking that time for yourself. Okay. So some really amazing phone apps for anxiety that I can't sing high enough praises for. Insight Timer, Hello Minds, Headspace, and Calm. I can personally attest to Headspace and Insight Timer. Headspace is going to give you about 10 free self-guided meditations that you can use as many times as you need. And then, after that, it does require a payment. But those 10 self-guided meditations are amazing, and I would still check them out. Insight Timer is going to be all free. That's going to be a plethora of different options for you whether it be self-guided meditations, whether it be things to help you sleep at night. So I know for a lot of people, anxiety can keep you up, and it's really hard to kind of silence all of those thoughts. Um, and nighttime meditation can definitely help with things like that. So just check it out. Insight Timer, Hello Mind, Headspace, and Calm. Take a picture, and also if farther down the line you're thinking like, dang, what were the name of those apps called? You're in luck because it's actually going to be on our website. So you can always just go to the Counseling Center website where we have these listed. And I'll later on, well, in a second, I'll go over where you can find our website, our social media, and things like that. So just bear with me. All right. 100 ways to relax and de-stress for under $10. Wow, we love a deal. So I'm not going to sit here and read all of these to you, but I will go through some. Turn off your phone. Number one, let me tell you, that right there does wonders. And this is coming from someone who loves to be on their phone. Just turn it off. Um, the saying, hang out, hang up, hang out. Seriously, hang up, hang out. I mean, we don't constantly need to be in tune with what's going on around the world 24/7 or going on um, locally. Take some time. Just live in the moment, and that is perfectly fine. Have a picnic. A lot of times that requires being out in the open, sitting in a park with a loved one. Breathing exercises, number 30. Listening to music. And there's one on here that says hold a baby, and I can't figure out where it is. Um, Regardless, hold a baby if the parent's okay with it. Great way to de-stress. And it's free. Let's see what else. So I'll leave this up for just a little bit longer so y'all can just kind of peruse. Oh, see, number 98, make homemade bread. I can't bake, but sounds like a great de-stressing tool. Alrighty. So, counseling center services. If you have not retained anything that I've said this entire presentation, please just listen to this. What do we do at the counseling center? First and foremost, we do individual counseling on a short-term model. What does this mean? This means that we do not do more than 15, we won't see a client more than 15 sessions. And this will usually entail, with constant therapy, coming in every 2 to 3 weeks. Most students don't use their 15 sessions. And the 15 sessions is going to include the entire time that you're at Texas State. It's going to be split up between your tenure here at Texas State. We do group counseling. Studies have shown that group counseling is just as, if not more effective than individual counseling. We have a slide coming up about group counseling, but we have groups for pretty much anything that you could think of. It's a great way to build community with other people who are going through similar things. Crisis response. Crisis response are going to be appointments that are scheduled very last minute in event of a crisis. If you know you are feeling suicidal or homicidal, these are things that you can walk directly into the counseling center during our working hours and get a crisis what's the word that I'm thinking of? A consultation or an appointment set up with the counseling center, and there will be a clinician on staff to see you every time, at least within our working hours. Consultation and referral services. So the counseling center is equipped to deal with a plethora of different issues. There are no, as my boss always says in the center, there are no issues too big, there are no issues too small to come to the counseling center. So if you feel the need to talk to someone, regardless of how minuscule you think it might be or how big it might be, at the very least come and set up an initial consultation so we can figure out a best practice for you. And for some people, best practice would be a referral out to the community. Not that our counselors aren't amazing, but for ethical reasons, there are some things that you would be best fit getting referred to treatment options within the community. So we are able to do consultation and referral services for that. Or, if most people don't use all of their 15 sessions, but if you come to the end of your 15 sessions, the clinicians aren't just going to leave you just out there in the cold by yourself. There are options for you to be referred to other people out in the community too for that, and finding maybe who would work best for you based on your needs specifically. Psychiatric service referrals too. Alrighty, and so what we don't do, I think a lot of people if you've never been to the counseling center, you really don't know what services we offer and what we don't. And so, like we were talking about before, we don't do long-term therapy, no more than 15. I will say though, crisis appointments do not count towards your 15. And then conditions requiring specialized treatments, and that gets into the ethical reasons that were discussed. Um, if you need very specialized treatment, we will set up ways for you to get referred to someone or an entity that can help you in the best ways possible. And then academic advising, we'll have parents call and students calling the office or the center, wanting to know about grades or when they're graduating. It's like, well, we do not know because we actually do not do academic advising. Accessing our services. Students begin by calling for an initial consultation, and then this is the point in which we determine during the initial during the initial consultation, or the icon as we call it, we determine the appropriate care. Um, Whether that is placing you with a counselor that you prefer matches a certain identity, a Black counselor, someone who's LGBTQIA, Latinx, a woman, what have you. This can be figured out also during then. Um, there are no charges for counseling services. This is all worked into your tuition. And then all services are confidential as mandated by law and professional ethical standards. This also includes the office being Title IX exempt. If you come in to report a sexual assault experience personally, or someone else that you know who experienced a sexual assault, the office is Title IX exempt. So we don't have to report that to anyone. So that is completely confidential. So we are free and confidential. That is something to keep in mind. And then our counseling center website has very, very detailed information on a lot of different things that we offer. 512-245-2280 is our number. We are located on the 5th floor of LBJ, and you can find us at www.counseling.txstate.edu. And also follow us on all of our social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I think we might even have a Pinterest at TXStateCC. This is a quote that I like to leave students with as kind of just like some food for thought. Don't let your mind bully your body into believing it must carry the burdens of its worries. And that's by Astrid Alada. So thank y'all so much for sticking with me through this. I know the virtual presentation can be a little bit different, but thank you so much. All right, bye-bye.